Good evening from the garden and the pasture. So we are on another drought kick since the tropical storm came through a few weeks ago. We had a lot of damage from the storm. We lost this whole row of squash. We lost another row of squash. We lost a whole row of zucchini. We lost all 4 rows of our tomatoes. And the garden's just looking a little rough. So with Josh being back home, we've been discussing what plan needs to take place. Oh, here comes the man of the hour. So we've been discussing the game plan for the garden. Obviously, we still have some of this in rest, but we're gonna go ahead and start prepping some fall things to plant in here. And then we've also decided that we're going to go ahead and till the section of the garden that's really struggling, where we lost all of the tomatoes, so that we can plant anew. We can put some cover crops in there for this fall and winter. Hello.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm waking up.
He took a nap. We got home from the market today and he was out.
I said an hour. She said I snored and needed more, so.
So 2 hours it was. But it's a beautiful evening to come out, take a look around. I was just talking about how we've been discussing the plan for this fall and winter. So
the big thing is, as long as, if the plan goes against what you originally planned, you have to be okay with it if it's what you really need. So I'm okay with it.
yeah.
I'm okay with it.
Oh yeah. Before Josh left to go work for a few weeks, I made him the promise that everything would be okay if we lost most of the crops. And then a tropical storm came through. And so we're gonna be okay. We have a lot of repairs to the greenhouse we need to make. The back door ripped. The front of it, this section, is ripped off. So we need to order some more greenhouse plastic and fix that. So we've got to make some adjustments, some changes to the greenhouse, and then obviously the garden. It's a hot mess. So these are our rows of tomatoes, our wild lemon basil that's just taken over, and then our pumpkins that are half growing, half looking dead, half curing the pumpkins. I don't know what these plants are doing.
They're curing.
Well, I know, but they're still growing and producing more flowers and more fruit. So who knows? Wild pumpkins. But
yeah, they will. Basically, whatever we get now is going to be cured, and then that will probably be what we get left. So
yeah. Well, there's between 20 and 30 pumpkins on the vines right now that are curing, that are turning orange, and I've cooked 2 of them so far, and gotten at least 20 pounds of puree at this point.
Yeah.
So wild and
There's a couple in there
crazy.
that we've lost, but it's okay.
Yeah. Yep. There was one that just went and exploded.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and then we had one that I guess something got into it.
Yeah. We've got rodents. That's why we have Oliver the cat. So who knows? But we had a tarp on this area, which is why there's nothing growing. And we plan to put a heavy cover crop. This is a section that really struggles, but we're wanting to cover crop it because this is the expansion that we will be adding in next year. So putting rows in this section and having it be a part of the garden itself. So we've got some planning to do. This week, Josh is finishing up the Suburban rear end. Needed to be completely rebuilt. So he has been working on that, trying to get that finished. As soon as that is done this week, then it will be back to the garden, focusing on it focusing on starting some seeds. So Mr. Kelly, it is almost September. This is the last week of August. What do you plan to start seed-wise?
Well,
for our zone. We are zone 8A.
Pretty much, probably some root vegetables. So we're going to do carrots, beets.
Are we direct sowing, or are we starting in trays?
I'm thinking about direct sowing. It's going to be easier to do than in trays. I had started some in tray items before I left in August, and they did not hold up very well. They're going to have to be started indoors, and my setup that we had a couple years ago with the lights, it kind of needs to be revamped.
Yeah.
So at this point, I think we're just going to do some root vegetables, and if we get some stuff over the winter, great. If not, they'll just hold until spring, and we'll have early spring stuff. So
sounds good. I know there's a lot of flowers we can start now too if we want them in the spring, which is interesting.
Yeah,
so,
they're gonna have like tulips and stuff like that.
No, like actual like nasturtiums, calendula.
You'll have
stuff
to show
like
me.
that.
I don't know much about those. Okay.
So we're trying some new things. We're trying to figure out like what will actually do well for us here.
The big thing is we're going to be cover cropping now. We've never done that, and we've honestly never had stuff go in the fall and either come out in the fall / winter and go to spring. So we're not doing the whole garden that way. Obviously, we're going to do some cover cropping and try some things. So
I'm excited though. We are going to till where the tomatoes are, and we're going to put some sunflowers in there for one final hurrah of bright prettiness.
Well, and we're very excited to try those cover crops as well, because we were very lovingly gifted some seeds from So Right Seeds. They have a really awesome selection of different seeds, but she reached out and wanted to work with us on some cover crop seeds and what we needed for the fall and winter garden. So
something that can help with the biomass. We have super sandy soil. A good example. So it has no no mass to it whatsoever. So yes, hello, I'm just looking at soil. Thank you. More like sand. I'm just looking at sand.
I'm getting eaten alive.
Yes. The mosquitoes are out in full force too, with the rain that we had, and then obviously everything has grown up wild and crazy, and so we've actually been mowing because the sheep cannot keep up.
Well, that's a whole separate story.
That's a whole separate story. I'm gonna do a whole video on that one. Why our pasture rotation with our sheep has failed. So stay tuned for that video. But I just thought I'd bring you guys out here for a few minutes in the garden, talk to you about our plans. Here's the other side of it. So we've got the lemon basil. We have some Italian basil here. We have a few cucumbers in the row with the Italian basil. And then these are all the tomatoes that have gone and been taken over by grasses. And then another section that we had covered. And then we had our row of buckwheat cover crop here. And then we still have some carrots in this row right up here. But that's where we lost our zucchini. So after all the heavy rains, we lost squash, zucchini, and all of our tomatoes, which means most of our summer crops that we would be selling at the markets right now. So we've had to kind of pivot what items we take to the markets, what our focus is. And we've had to do a lot more focusing on dog products, which is totally fine. Like, dogs are our thing, obviously, but it's a little different for us at the markets that we go to. There's one market that the dog products do well. The cicadas are gonna start screaming. But the other market, our produce usually does better, and so it's been kind of slim pickings and slow at one of the markets that we go to. So That's the season for you. We've been trying to figure out how we can pivot a little better. Obviously, there's not much in the garden to pick right now. We have some green beans that may be ready in a week or two. But again, do we want to preserve those for ourselves this winter, or do we want to sell them? That's kind of like the ethical dilemma that we have when we have a lot of food, but not a lot of food. So just always trying to find that balance on the homestead and in the home. So thanks for joining us tonight. We'll see you next time.